All right, guys, so we wanted to talk to you about the quoting process from a service advisor point of view and what we do with the paperwork and how we're processing things and how we're moving things through the shop and the system that goes kind of behind it. So, Dean, you've worked as a technician.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You've also wrote service at Mercedes. And Lexus.
Mm-hmm.
And you're crazy enough to come here.
Yeah.
So, in the process of doing all this, though, you've worked with our board system,
Mm-hmm.
you know, our old school paperwork, flag sheets with technicians, our tracker,
Mm-hmm.
you know, having to deal with Mitchell, all the redundancies, but also, you know, getting the answers from those things. So, as you process and you run through all that stuff, and you kind of learn our way of thinking, eventually, I know it becomes kind of just second nature. You don't got to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess for the average shop owner out there who's trying to convince an advisor that the board is helpful, or that it's helpful to have a, you know, literally a clipboard dropped on your desk with a ticket on it
Mm-hmm.
and information on it, versus just a computer program just flashing at you that you may or may not ignore.
Mm-hmm.
And I love technology and I love using technology, but I also know if somebody puts that on your desk, you're not going to ignore it. There's a lot of key triggers that happen. Can you just tell us a little bit about just your adjustment period from there to here, and be truthful about what you like and what you don't like about the way we run things?
Yeah. As far as like dealership level, you would have my team of technicians that would be behind me. They would bring me either the quote itself with the parts and the cost. Everything pretty much set forward with what was there. Everything was just already set in stone.
At the dealership?
At the dealerships, yeah. I had to manage my own team, had to manage my own people. If I had somebody on the digital side of the tech, you know, of the software that we were using, there was no way of actually truly tracking where it was in the system, where it was in that process. Once I gave it to the shop foreman or team leader, it disappeared until it was brought back to me.
So you had no way to know what was going on?
No, I mean, you have options on the software where you can go in and flag it if it's just a waiter, but that's something you have to control, something that you have to change with every step. If you don't keep up with it, then you wind up in a bigger mess than you started off with. So it's just easier just to kind of leave it alone and work with it that way. Here, I have more of a hands-on. I have a board that I can look at and tell you where the car is at, as long as, you know, the magnets are being moved, you know, the right way. Then I can tell you exactly every step of the process. I can tell you if the shop foreman's got it, if a technician's got it, if parts are being waited on. I don't have that guesswork anymore in front of me. You know, we can use the software to the side, but it's always dependent on it, you know, being changed, you know, at the right time or by the right person. Mm-hmm. So here, everybody all hands on board. It's just an easier way of seeing the process through. It's easier to keep track of things.
And the way we have it set up right now, and guys, this is all legit. We're not staging anything. This is his real desk.
Welcome
this
to
is
the
his
mess.
real environment. And Dean does a great job for us. But and this is a real store with, you know, all of our inventory. I've had people go, "Is that a real store you're in when you did that video?" Yes, it was real. Mm-hmm. So in this setup, you're kind of behind this wall where you get to hide your mess, and you can jump up and run up here and do your presentation at the front counter when you need to. And it's a Friday afternoon right now, so you could run up there and you could meet somebody, talk to them. Yeah. And normally Dean would have a shirt and tie on, but this Fridays,
casual Friday.
Casual Friday here at Eurofix and Autofix. But you run up there and you're able to meet them, talk to them, and kind of hide that mess.
Well, I can not only just hide my mess, but I can stay focused on what I was actually doing. When you're at a service writer at a dealership or anywhere like that, you have one office, somebody walks in, they always interrupt you. If it's a porter checking on the car, if it's a client walking in with some questions, one computer screen, you're always locked into either handling what's in front of you or changing what you were working on to move on to the next task. And then you have to figure out where you're at and where you're going back to. But here I can jump up, go to the front counter, meet somebody, leave my mess, leave exactly what I was doing, and come back to it. So when I'm done at the front counter, if it's checking somebody out or you know, checking them in.
That's awesome. All right. And it's interesting because we talk about this all the time about kind of adjusting, going from jumping up front, dealing with somebody coming back, and the mouse being right where it was, the cursor flashing on the paragraph you were writing, and it kind of reminds you of everything you were just doing.
Exactly.
You jump right back into it versus moving it all out of the way, minimizing the windows because someone comes in.
Yep.
And that downtime of having to get back in the groove What were you doing?
Which ticket was I looking at? Which client did I call?
And all that can be left here. You go up front and you just come right back to
It's a
it.
separate zone. Yeah, it's completely separate of what I'm doing back
Yeah,
here.
it's a separate environment, really.
And it's easy just to stand up and leave what I'm doing and meet somebody at the front counter. There's no
When you're
delaying.
approachable by staff back here.
Yeah.
When you're at the front counter, that's the other thing I didn't think of until you brought it up. Everybody knows you're kind of hands off. You're up there talking to a customer. They don't even come up and
Yeah,
bother.
nobody wouldn't interrupt or something like that if I'm with the client. So it separates that from either a technician or somebody else coming in and ask a question.
Yeah.
They know that I'm with the client. And
Versus if you had just one counter,
Somebody
they're just awkwardly standing
yeah,
there.
a technician awkwardly standing behind you waiting on the client to leave, which is never good for nor the client nor the advisor.
Yeah.
It's just not a comfortable situation.
Yeah, because then you feel like you got an audience and you're waiting, to go respond. So in moving these tickets throughout the system, we all know that they get checked in. You pull the car around, turn it over to the technician. Technician inspects it, brings it back up front. You pitch it, sell it, hand it off to the parts manager. Parts manager tries to get the parts cheap as possible at the right time, gets it all turned in. Then we start the prepare process, get it done, QC, etc. You know your role, you know your lane. You know when you have to jump in and help with parts, or you got to jump in and help with a management type situation, or jump in and help with a QC, even if you got a guy out. As you're kind of changing gears and you're making that stuff happen, does the environment of you having this special place that's just yours, does that help you kind of jump out and do something else and come back and stay centered? Because a lot of the guys keep asking me, and maybe it doesn't for you, but a lot of the owners keep asking me, how do you get your team to do whatever it takes, but still remember what just their job is? And not things get messy and get into everybody else's job.
I think that's really, a lot of it's based on the person, if they have that ability to multitask, if you will, to either take a pause on what they're doing and stand up and help with parts or help answer their question. But it's, for parts to come in, we have a designated area, they get laid out. So if I'm in the middle of either a quote, things like that, it doesn't get disturbed. So it's easy to sit back down and find out, move right back into smoothly what I'm doing, no matter if it's an interruption from a technician or anybody really. It's just, it's easy. I don't know, I just find it really easy to jump up and help with the parts or dispatch.
So what is different at Eurofix where we've gotten the roles so defined that it's easy for you to jump in and then jump back out and do yours, versus another place maybe that you've worked where it was just kind of hodgepodge and everybody did everything?
Well, everybody has their, like at a dealership level, you have your parts guys, you have your technicians, your team leaders, and then you have your office. So I would either have to wrangle a technician to come back up front or call the parts department and things like that. So I have to rely on other teams. I just find it easier if as far as parts, if somebody has a question or if we need to look at a part, I can easily jump on here, look at it, find out what we need to do if it's a technician with a question or if we want to look at a different part brand. I just have more control over the situation than I felt like at a dealership. I was always relying on somebody else and somebody else's time. If they didn't want to jump on it in a timely manner, then I was waiting for somebody else. Here I can do it much quicker than I could at the dealership.
And the board system.
Easy. It just makes life easy.
So what about the guy that says, Aaron, it should be all digital, and when you do something here, it moves it. We shouldn't have to actually touch it or anything. Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense, and we have it. We can do it, but
what's the difference in actually a physical board?
It's because of the physical board, I can either look over, the technician is moving the magnets, the GS is moving the magnets. So on the system, it's you and you alone. It's your duty to move the magnets. It's your duty to move the flag on the person or to say if it's a waiter. You don't know if it's in quality control. You don't know if it's in cleanup. You don't know if it's being worked on. Here, everybody is hands-on, so I can easily just take a look to my right and tell exactly if we're waiting on parts because the parts person's moved the magnet, or the technician has it because the parts came in, or if it's under inspection or QC because the technician's moved it out. It's just a much easier way of following it through the process because everybody's doing their duty. It's just.
Are you saying basically because they're coming up here to the front and they're in the office with you?
Yeah, because everybody's It's
like
just,
water cooler type talk?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's communal?
It's communal.
Versus them just moving it on a computer from their workbench in the back.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, even when I was on different systems at the dealership and I had like ADP or if we used different software, I moved the flags. But even though the technician can get in access, they don't have the access to change what I'm looking at because everybody has their own lock. It's not tailored that way. So if I move a flag, it's up to me to change it to whichever status it's in. So it's just double the more work that I have to do to track it per vehicle. So it's there if the technician moves a flag, or if he's looking at his software is completely for him and him alone. They don't. Ours didn't interlink that way.
So just being a simple magnet board on a wall, and them having to come in and move it, grab their parts, grab the next key, and walk out, allows enough interaction and enough of a paper trail, if you will,
Yeah.
that you're able to function.
Yeah, I can function not only for me, but I can for other riders too as well. If they're out for the day, call out, or vacation day, holiday, I can easily pick up right where they left off without ever asking them a question of where the car is at. If they're waiting on approval, whatever it is, I can simply take a look to the right when they call, if the client calls, and tell you exactly where it is in the process. I don't have that guesswork of what's Jimmy, what are they working on, or where's it at in which process, and put them on hold. I can easily just look over and tell them exactly where the process is and where our status is, if you will. So it's not only can I do my work easier, but I can also step in.
But you could arguably do that with digital. I mean, that's what people say. But then I have everybody tell me that has done this and converted over. They're like, I can't explain it. It just works better.
Digital, yes, it's not the same. And like I said, everybody has their own login. Like when I use ADP, I had my team. I had my team leader. So we had access to it, but another advisor was on a completely different set. It was under their number, so I couldn't see their tickets. So it's to say if a client called in that instance, I would not have a clue without actually asking them physically where your car is, or let me transfer you this phone call.
So you're saying you just glance at the board, you see everything.
And it's done. It's that easy. I would much rather have a manual board in front of me to my left that everybody's working on communally, and working with it together, and be able to track not only my work, but anybody else's work in the shop, than to have to look at my machine and just hope that it's been logged in, if you have access to that type of work.
Well, and I suspect the communal aspect allows for lots of miniature type communications to happen that
details that you wouldn't
normally
find if
you
clicked
wouldn't
on.
you wouldn't even plan on doing. They're just happening by default because the guy happens to be standing here.
Yeah, maybe in quality control, but we needed to do a test drive. But I would know that because he's came up, technician came up, moved it over to quality control, said I need to do a test drive on the vehicle before we let it release, or we need to rescan it for codes. Would not know that if I just clicked on the ticket and it showed that it was for quality control. There's no way of having those little tidbits of information that would be helpful, not only like helping a client schedule out their day. If they call, I can say, hey, we're looking at about another hour or another 15 minutes because I have that information.
Do you think it helps you handwriting their name just on a magnet? Do you actually remember it better, or does it not?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. I've even gotten better with remembering names, honestly.
Just because you're having to handwrite it out?
Just because I'm handwriting. Even if it's just checking in their car and it's not me handling the ticket, but I still know that it's there, or from checking them in and writing a magnet. But it definitely helps.
Wow.
I think it's just an easy form of helping you remember.
Cool. All right. So I think that's it. But is there anything you would want to add to somebody who maybe had a small repair shop who never had any of this organization, and they're all of a sudden trying to sell this to the team? If they were trying to sell this to their advisors, anything you would want to say that could maybe help them?
I would definitely say try it for sure. I mean, without a doubt. I was a master certified technician for many years. I wrote service at different dealerships, and I've never had a system that worked this easy and this good that was proficient or efficient enough to manage the whole entire shop on something so simple as a board. It's not only helped with keeping clientele informed or being the efficiency of just getting the job done, quicker throughout the shop, as far as parts, things like that. I can look up and tell you if we're waiting on something. It's just, there's many different advantages to it. It's simple. Digital is just a form of, it sounds easy, but it's not as easy as this. And if you haven't tried it, you must. The whole entire shop will like it. That's hands down. It's been the best and easiest experience I've had since I've worked.
Batteries never go dead.
Batteries never go dead. And I've been everywhere. I've been dealership, I've been independent, and this system works good.
All right.
Do it.
Well, thanks, Dean. We appreciate your help.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you in the next video.